haven't seen me here in a long time. I very decidedly took a break from doing my weekly videos, and quite frankly, after doing, I guess, a couple hundred videos, you just start to have a bit of creative burnout. So I've decided to, rethink the format for my videos. I'm not sure I'm going to do it as Friday Fire every week going forward, but I felt it was time to give you an update regardless. I'd actually done a live workshop for some home inspectors this afternoon, and I kind of was in the mood. I was doing a lot of public speaking, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to do a Friday Fire and give you guys a State of the Union about real estate and mortgages. So here we are, different background. One more thing that's changed in my life. So I no longer have an office downtown. As you know, I've transitioned out of real estate into full-time mortgages, and so I've set up a home office in our new house on the west side. So very exciting. It looks very different. It's nice and bright, and I'm excited to do some more content videos for you guys from this location. So State of the Union in Alberta. I mean, I feel like a broken record, but as you know, I'm always pro Alberta, and I think that there's lots of good news. Just don't watch any more election coverage until that's all over. I think we're all a little fatigued by it, but truly, Alberta's doing very, very well. We have seen massive population growth into the province, which is always good for the economy, always good for home values. One number I was able to pull was in the fourth quarter of 2022, they're saying about 46,000 for population growth in Alberta. So Alberta's leading the country in population growth, which is just phenomenal. And then, in terms of the real estate market, because population growth always impacts real estate, everybody needs a house, it affects the rental market, and it just goes down the line. And things look really good in Lethbridge, in Calgary, across Alberta. And I'll give you some numbers. I always look at months inventory. That basically says if we line up everybody waiting to sell their home, how fast would those houses sell given today's market, all things being equal. So for Lethbridge, which is where I am, there is 3.1 months of inventory, which is awesome for Lethbridge. There's less than 500 residential listings right now on the MLS, and really that is even a little stronger than a balanced market. Really, that's more like a seller's market, especially when you're talking in May and the weather's good and people are out hot and heavy looking at properties. So that is great news for Lethbridge homeowners that are looking to sell. And if you're a buyer, yes, it's a little more competitive out there, especially in the starter price points, but it's not so crazy that you're not going to be able to find a home. Just expect you might be competing on those real hot listings that show well and are priced well. So make sure you get pre-approved with a mortgage broker. Calgary is only 1.45 months of inventory, which is a pretty hot seller's market. Not really surprised there. I mean, Calgary's been on fire for years now. And Alberta across the board is 3.3 months inventory. So pretty balanced market, leaning a little bit more toward favoring the sellers. So that's good news, right? Now, I work with home buyers who are trying to get a mortgage. So let's just talk a little bit about what's going on in the mortgage market and what you can expect. If you're trying to get pre-approved, get pre-approved before you go shopping. Inflation is coming down, but it's stalling. That trajectory downward is stalling a little bit, and Tiv Macklin, isn't giving away too much about what's going to happen with the next Bank of Canada announcement in June. But the inflation number for April was 4.4, and in March it was 4.3. And as we know, the Bank of Canada wants to see inflation continue to go down. So that always affects interest rates. Now, on the interest rate side, an interesting trend has been happening, and that's that home buyers are looking at 3 and 4 year fixed rate terms instead of 5-year fixed rate terms. And fixed rates definitely have seen a surge in terms of popularity. People want that security. Fixed rates are more competitive right now versus variable rates. Variable rates are just too high for some people, and it's taking them out of their budget. And so we've seen fixed rates tracking now around the low to mid fours for some of the more competitive products out there. And that's still really, you know, a reasonable rate. I mean, it's not like during COVID when money was free, but it's also not the 1980s, you know, at 18%. So that being said, people got used to free money. And so when you're qualifying, you just have to remember that it's your contract rate plus 2%. So if the contract rate that you're shooting for is 4.59, we have to qualify you at 6.59. And really, you know, you need to be making a household income, gross income of about 65,000 a year or better to even start thinking about buying a property. At least in Lethbridge, you know, you gotta have a budget of almost $200,000, maybe 175, depending what you're willing to buy. So you really just have to talk to a mortgage broker and crunch the numbers. It is getting harder and harder for first-time home buyers to qualify. But they're doing it. We're getting them into homes. You just got to do your homework. You've got to have your documents ready. You've got to have that down payment saved up and get your debt down. So maybe put off buying the $75,000 Dodge Ram for a few years. You know, just a tip. So yeah, we don't know what's going to happen with the next Bank of Canada announcement on June 7th. It seems people are thinking that they're going to hold rates, but we'll see. If you are thinking you could be in the market at all this summer or going into fall to buy a home, go get a pre-approval with your beloved mortgage broker and get a rate hold. There is nothing to lose by getting a rate hold. You have that peace of mind that you've locked in that rate, even if you don't find a house for another 2 months. So that is something to think about. That's kind of the state of the union right now. I would just say that everything's about planning. Everything's about, you know, being really intentional with your money right now. Affordability is still a huge issue for Albertans and really Canadians across the country. Everything's just feeling really tight for people. So get your consumer debt down. You know, pay off the credit cards. If you can drive that used vehicle for a little bit longer and just take good care of it, then do that. You know, resist the temptation to start putting things on credit cards or buy that expensive new vehicle if you don't have to. If buying a home is more important to you, then you need to keep your consumer debt as low as possible. You need to make sure that you start accumulating savings for your down payment. And you need to start working with a mortgage broker to start putting a plan in place. Even if you don't think you can buy a home for 6 or 12 months, now's the time to pick up the phone and have that conversation. It doesn't cost you anything, but it could save you a lot later. So I'm so happy to be back for this Friday Fire, and I hope you have a safe, enjoyable, not too smoky May long weekend, and we'll see you for the next video update. Take care.